Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. I'm your host, DZ. We got a major show today. We got to talk about Bitcoin just kind of dumping over the last hour or two. What is going on? Is this in anticipation of Jerome Powell? He is going to be speaking later on today. We're going to be covering that live, of course. But we also have major news regarding Solana. And it looks like XRP might be left outside in the cold as Solana was chosen by Western Union. And not only that, chosen by Visa, the world's largest credit card provider. And we also have major news on Ondo. I'm going to tell you my Ondo plan. I know there's a lot of you out there holding Ondo in. Welcome back, TJ. TJ, How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Happy. I'm probably one of the few people that is happy with some of these pullbacks that we haven't absolutely blasted off, haven't carried the momentum that we saw obviously over the weekend for the Bitcoin and altcoin markets. Which that's your
yeah. So I was talking about the bow that they sent me. Hey, I got your cufflinks right here, buddy. I got yeah. I'm still holding on to all the stuff, man. I appreciate it.
But yeah, we are in the process of accumulating some of the coins we're going to talk about today. You guys already know I mentioned it last week, trying to onboard a decent amount of fiat into these markets and trying to get some good positions in. Not that I don't already have these, but really loading up right now. I'm still very heavy Bitcoin. It's like 70%, but I'm adding a lot of Solana. I'm adding a lot of Avalanche. I've already pretty heavy Chainlink, pretty heavy Arrow. So those two for sure. I'll keep you guys updated as to some of the other ones. But right now, those are the majors. I'm definitely adding more Ethereum as well. So nothing too groundbreaking there. Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, kind of, pretty major picks. I'm pretty tempted. I feel like a lot of people sleep on HBAR. I know they had a little bit of a rally earlier this week on the ETF announcement, but I was bummed I wasn't here yesterday with those ETFs launching. It is a really big deal. There's actually a couple things that are, in my opinion, a pretty big deal. I'm not sure. I'll pull them up, but some of those like really big announcements happening that are quiet on the day, but are going to have make a seismic shift in the industry going forward. One of them, and you may have mentioned this yesterday. Did you mention the credit rating that MicroStrategy got? They get
the B-, which actually isn't as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. It's kind of, the best way I heard it described is the PSAT before the SAT. And with this PSAT, they're telling you all the wrong answers and how to get a higher credit rating. Now, I've seen some people, I think Adam Livingston out there, saying this is the worst thing ever. Wall Street doesn't know how to price MicroStrategy. They don't know how to price Bitcoin. I wouldn't go that far. At the end of the day, you got to look at their operating margins. People don't like to talk about MicroStrategy operates at a loss quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. And, it's not something maybe mentioned enough.
Yeah, we do have some news on airdrop, but this is where I really wanted to come back to. This is, and we are going to cover the prices, hit CoinMarketCap, do all that stuff. We're jumping right into the news right now. But this was one of those ones that was somewhat quiet. Coinbase and Apollo teaming up to launch a stablecoin-based credit and tokenized credit products by 2026. So this, right now, means really nothing for today, but middle of next year, this is going to make a seismic shift in the industry to having some credit rating that is taking into account stable coins and all that sort of stuff. So there's just some big stuff happening. Obviously, we've got the Visa news that we're going to cover, but let's go ahead and I guess cover the markets. Where are we sitting at right now? And we'll get into the show.
All right, yeah. Looking at CoinGecko, me and TG, we always like to fight over who's going to add the screen there. Let's hit refresh, make sure we got the fresh data. Because when you look at Bitcoin is kind of taking a little bit of a dump. These are 3-minute candles. You go to the 5-minute. We have now created our first green 5-minute candle. This is going to end in 2 minutes. Maybe breaking the streak here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 red Heiken-Ashi candles on the 5-minute time frame. But when you zoom out, you go to the 1 hour, kind of see, maybe just coming down, sweeping down this area of liquidity. before we could continue to rally. And I might even see a little bit of a, I don't know, I don't want to be offensive here. I can't say Siamese twin. I know I just said it. Conjoined. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, it almost looks like a conjoined twin head and shoulders. I already feel kind of weird saying that. Let's just talk about the prices here. Smash the like button. We really might need some help to get out of a YouTube jail after that comment there. But Bitcoin is down 2.5%. ETH is down 3.4%. So we're seeing all the majors have some pretty large lags here. Dogecoin is down 4.1%. Look at that figure here. Like I was telling you, just stay away from this thing. It is now down 24%, but you got to go a long ways before you see anything in the green. And it's that stupid token that's always green when the markets are red. Of course, I'm talking about Leo token. Now, when we look at the biggest gainers here, Trump pump before the Chinese summit. TJ, do you have any thoughts on Trump's meme coin pumping before he meets with Xi Jinping?
Nothing specifically. It definitely is interesting. That was like Arrow was up yesterday when everything else was down, and Trump was the other one. It was down in the $6 range, so it's up pretty substantial, 43% in the last 7 days. That's pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, maybe this is some insider. I guess maybe Barron's loading up his bags at these levels because he knows it's about to get stupid bullish. And this is one that I held. I got in around $7. I think, I didn't sell it at $70 like an idiot, wrote it back down, and did end up taking some profits, I think around $20-ish. So ended up rolling it into a small World Liberty 5 position, which I'm still holding. But I do think we are moving into the part of the cycle where we're going to start to see some crazy blow off top type stuff. I think the government shutdown needs to end. We need to get this rate cut today. And the big question, we're going to be live this afternoon, guys, just like always, covering the FOMC. And a lot of people are speculating, is Jerome Powell going to reference the end of quantitative tightening today? If that happens, I think that will be extremely bullish. There's a basically 98%, 99% chance of a 25% basis point cut. Could shock the world with a 50% basis cut, which would absolutely rocket markets. Don't think they'll do it because it kind of admits weakness and that they're a little bit late. Mm-hmm. But we are exposed to have another one before the end of the year as well. So we're going to be getting rate cuts. We're going to be getting quantitative, at least the end of quantitative tightening, if not quantitative easing starting soon. I do think the China-US tariff war will end, and that will definitely have a big impact on the economy. China did make their first major soybean purchase that hasn't happened in months. So that kind of shows signs of things heading in the right direction. So a lot to be bullish about. But I was curious, speaking of different coins, I have a very high conviction in most of the coins that I hold, Aerodrome. But I'm just curious from chat, excluding Bitcoin, I would hope everybody has a unshakable conviction in Bitcoin at this point. If you don't, just stick around and we'll rub off on you until you do. But what is your highest conviction altcoin? Yeah, I know it didn't sound right when I said it either. And what is your lowest conviction altcoin? What do you think about that? He's like, you're one that you.
I mean, it's Chainlink. It is got to be Chainlink. You just see so much going on with Chainlink behind the scenes. I have a very, very high conviction in that one. And as far as low conviction, I mean, anytime you go outside the top 50, you need to have somewhat of a low conviction, unless you just happen to know, the supreme alpha and you're just smarter than everybody else in the entirety of the market. But once you start going down that risk curve, you shouldn't value your meme coins all that much. So you should have low conviction in a meme coin. So I hold a couple meme coins. I wouldn't say I'm overtly bearish on SNEC or Doge. I think that's about the extent of my meme coin exposure there. But I would hope I would have lower confidence in SNEC relative to ADA.
You're still holding SafeMoon, Steve-O? You're still holding SafeMoon? Really? That's what I'm asking, guys. Let me know. Answer it like this. Highest is, like if he said
fart coin. I got a little fart coin on Coinbase when they added it to Coinbase. I was up and I just didn't take profits on it. So fart coin for me, I can't help but I get a little gassed up when I talked about it, but I think fart coin.
I'm seeing a lot of people say Ondo in the chat. How many? Yeah, we have Ondo too. Are you? I don't know if they're saying that's their highest conviction or lowest conviction. How many of you guys are holding Ondo and are kind of shaking on your conviction? And we talked about it a little bit. I missed the holding part. Oh, okay, so you don't.
I do have this news, regarding Ondo. Just it's kind of a good segue here. Ondo I did sell half. I think Drew, he got out completely. A lot of people are,
I still have
hey,
some.
Josh was super bullish. I got some Ondo. I think it was fair that we called him Ondo man.
Yeah,
He
he
did
loved.
graduate from Ondo boy. So he was more bullish than, everybody else here in the company. Part of the reason I had an assessment that, maybe it's time to sell half. When he was first talking about it, when he was going to RWA, to XYZ, it's only like 1 billion in assets, then it's 2 billion in assets. Now you go there, it's like 40-50 billion dollars in assets. As it started to get more and more players, BlackRock with Biddle and Securitize, we covered that in last night's video, there's just more competition. And so when Pepsi is the only cola out there, it's 1912, and you got that guy in North Carolina. He's the only game in town. But guess what? Then Coca-Cola happened. And then if you go forward 10 years, well, maybe you should be a little bit less bullish on Pepsi. So that's kind of my take on Ondo. But Ondo is still building. There's a reason I'm still holding half. Looks like they're about to bring a bunch of stocks to BNB chain, over 100 tokenized stocks and ETFs. Going to be powered by Ondo. This is just breaking from the last 1 hour here. So more U.S. markets coming to millions worldwide. So they're still building and utilizing BNB or Binance Smart Chain. That's going to be very bullish, I think, in the long term.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of mixed reviews. People, Ondo leading in a lot of the RWA metrics. I agree, and then other people saying Ondo looks dead. I would be careful to make, and I will give Steve-O his flowers here. I do think it's one thing he does very well is looking at a lot of data. Maybe we have minor disagreements on how certain data is read or displayed, but for the most part, I think we agree on a lot of different things. And I want to encourage you guys to look at the metrics and the data on your coins, because it's very easy to get emotional when there's money involved and say like, oh, hey, Ondo hasn't done anything in a little while. I'm just not feeling it anymore. I'm going to move to the next shiny new thing. And oftentimes that's when things move. Like the reason, if you look at Avalanche on a price chart right now, like it looks pretty beaten down. But from what I'm looking at, I'm like, well, at least on the shorter, kind of range perspective, it's definitely towards the bottom of that range. And it's down, 86% below its peak. Like, and this is where I want to buy a fat bag, especially when I start to see the Visa news. And almost every time you turn around, they are in the discussion, whether it's going to be in an ETF, it's going to be in a basket, it's got some government stuff going on. So I would just be careful not to get recency bias, which I know happens a lot in crypto. There's constantly new things coming out. There's constantly new narratives, people like us talking about them and saying why they're the greatest thing. And they are, like, we love to look at new projects. We love to get excited about the latest tech. That's part of why we are in this space and do this every day. But that doesn't mean the ones that are the legacy builders and just keep at it and deliver products and gain metrics aren't worth sticking with. I mean, XLM is kind of one of those examples that over and over and over, that would be interesting. I don't think either one of those, I don't think either one are doing any boxing matches these days, but I see your comment there.
It's a pretty large weight class difference. There's a pretty large differential. Physics at the end of the day does rule supreme, and there's a reason there's weight classes in boxing. It was like every 10 pounds, I mean, if you're 11 pounds heavier than someone, you're going to dominate there. So anyway, let's talk about the major breaking news, though, everybody. Visa to start supporting stablecoins on 4 blockchains. This is major news. I don't think people are really understanding the impact. This might be, if not some of the biggest news of the year, it's definitely some of the biggest news over the past few months here. Visa to start supporting these 4 chains. What are the 4 chains? So the CEO said they're adding support for 4 new stablecoins on 4 blockchains and will allow banks, this is almost the craziest part, to mint and burn. So banks are going to be able to create and destroy stablecoins at the click of a keyboard here. And so he told investors, this is all breaking from last night's quarterly report, their 4th quarter and year-end earnings call, although it's going to be the 3rd quarter. Come on, journalists, you got to do a little bit better here. I don't know how they're reporting 4th quarter in October here, but yeah, so the 4th quarter numbers are coming in. And
unless they could have a weird fiscal, like non-calendar year. That's the only explanation I could think of.
Yeah, true. Fiscal year starting October 1st there, but it is still Q4. So we're looking at these numbers that are continuing to expand their stablecoin offerings amid strong growth over the last financial year. Here's the quote: "We're adding support for 4 stablecoins running on 4 unique blockchains representing 2 currencies that we can accept and convert to over 25 traditional fiat currencies, meaning 25 different countries' paper currency." Now, Visa These are the coins. Now, they do support the stablecoin Circle's USDC and the Euro coin, as well as PayPal's PYUSD and their global dollar on 4 chains here: ETH, Solana, XLM/Stellar, and Avalanche blockchains. And saying there's a lot of momentum with these blockchains. There he is, looking, very, very somber. He kind of has a Bilbo Baggins vibe about him.
Yeah, he does.
A little bit there. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add in on those chains. It's worth mentioning the way that they did this, or the kind of the bridge, the middle person. So you got, obviously this is major news for Ethereum, Solana, Stellar, and Avalanche. But the unsung hero of a lot of these things is Chainlink. Chainlink has been working with Visa for a long time. They piloted this type of program on Chainlink, and this is part of the power of Chainlink that allows companies like Visa to launch support across multiple different chains all at one time using Chainlink's messaging standard and CCIP and testnet, all the different products that Chainlink has. So that's worth mentioning as well. Major news for those, and Chainlink is always just right in the middle of all of it when it comes to kind of bringing the legacy financial system to the new financial system, which is crypto. Chainlink is always literally linking the chains, and Ethereum and Solana. I mean, it's also major news. I'm sure you covered it yesterday. The Western Union with Solana, like Solana's getting major step ups. And if I think back to maybe this was today's news, I it all blurs together.
No, it was a little bit later in the afternoon. I wasn't able to cover it in the morning. I think they talked about it briefly in the afternoon stream there. But yeah, I mean, Solana, very, very bullish for Solana. Western Union, very large in the global remittances ecosystem. Sorry, XRP holders, maybe we'll put out a video next day or two on XRP. Now, their focus is going to be broadening stablecoin offerings for banks and traditional. But I love this quote that he gave. There's much more to come in this space. I kind of thought about this for a while, so we got this Visa executive, is the CEO, saying much more coming to the space. To me, TJ, I am seeing institutional DeFi, maybe as what he's alluding to.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. That's where I was heading with the Solana train of thought there. We covered while you were out, and I'm sure you saw, or we talked about it, the Federal Reserve Summit, where they had basically DeFi players. They're educating legacy players on what DeFi is, what these protocols are. And it wasn't lost on me. The two people that, at least on the panels I watched, that were moderating, one was Kyle Simonai, who's major Solana champion. The other one, Jitto Labs, also a Solana ecosystem DeFi play. So the two people that were asking the questions, guiding and directing the conversation of the panelists, come out of the Solana ecosystem, as well as, so when they break for lunch, and the people that are getting asked a lot of questions in those rooms. Again, Solana was definitely a focus point. Obviously, Sergey from Chainlink being on there gets a lot of coverage. Aave was mentioned several times, and Morpho. So don't sleep on things in the Coinbase ecosystem. Again, Aerodrome looking extremely strong right now. One of my highest conviction altcoin plays. I mean, it's tough for me to pick. I've got a lot: Ethereum, Solana, but Aerodrome is right up there with Ethereum, Solana, and Chainlink, in my opinion. So would love a research video on Link staking token SDL. They are direct partners with Chainlink Labs. Okay.
I would just be a little careful. $30 million, market cap there. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of risks. It does look like, there's some tokens yet to be released there. Liquid staking, brought to you by 15 of the most performant Chainlink node operators. I would just say, if you're really, really into this, buy some Chainlink and learn how to be a node operator. You probably do need a lot of Chainlink, so maybe this is kind of a beta play for that. But just be careful with anything, under $100 million market cap. That could turn sideways pretty quickly there.
Yeah, especially staking token. I'm interested though to learn about it. But staking tokens specifically can be tough with the tokenomics, because obviously people are getting that yield and liquidating it. So the mechanics have to be really dialed in, which Chainlink knows how to do tech. So probably pretty strong.
All right, now let's talk about Solana, who's going to be a major winner here. Now, people understand Zelle. We talked about Zelle yesterday. JP Morgan, Visa, Western Union, etc. They're going to have to run their own Solana validators. That is a lot of stake to be bought. You are not ready enough. This is a pretty good theme. this Solana is pretty close to burning that Solana. Once they get that Solana and they hold on to that and they start staking, they have their own validators. I see that sell pressure disappearing essentially forever, at least in crypto terms here. So a lot of buy pressure. It's going to be a lot of institutional just interest in Solana at the end of the day here. Arrow video coming, folks. So don't you worry, folks. Don't you worry. I know a lot of Arrow holders out there. Well, let's shift gears a little into Bitcoin here. DJ, I was very surprised to see this, but I guess if you think about it, it does make sense. There was a lot of Bitcoin 100 plus addresses created initially, but then as we started to run up in value, especially as it started passing $1,000, you can see $1,000 about right here. That's when you started to see a lot of consolidation. And then you just saw people shrink their Bitcoin wallet, shrink less and less whales with 100 Bitcoin. And then it just flat for years, basically 2019, 2020, all the way down until the middle of 2024, maybe even the beginning of 2025. And we are now at a record amount of addresses holding more than 100 Bitcoin, new all-time high.
That's crazy because of obviously, like you said early on, 100 Bitcoin was,
yeah, you got a laptop here and a thumb drive there, and I got to pull from Mt. Gox, I got a new wallet. So yeah, you expect a surge, and that is what we saw. But to hit a new all-time today, 15 years later, pretty remarkable in my opinion.
Well, and that just tells the story that smart, big money is what's coming in right now in this market. And ever since the US started making that, it's really, I guarantee, like that's what mid 2024 that started spiking up.
I mean, it's a little bit hard. All right, so 2025 is going to be right here. I mean, actually, maybe the beginning of this year.
Yeah, so it's probably November. It's probably election when we start November, December.
Start getting clarity.
Yeah, and then heading into this year, I was gonna say I wouldn't surprise me if it started. And I would imagine you see that little blip in the middle of right there in the middle of 22 and 24, a little further on. Yeah, right. Keep going. That's probably BlackRock. That's probably when the ETF launched, potentially, maybe not, but because they launched, I think, in
It was January 2024. I want to say it was January 11th.
So it's probably right in there.
Yeah. So this is the whales selling to Coinbase Institutional, Coinbase Custody, and the OTC deals.
Yeah, and what you're seeing there is nation states accumulating, big hedge funds, family offices, all that sort of stuff. That's an insanely bullish metric. To see that large of a consolidation accumulation of Bitcoin is pretty remarkable. Yeah, and we've got France out there at least starting to talk about accumulating. And if we continue to see a nation state FOMO, I do believe what we saw with gold, obviously most of the gold buying has been driven by central banks. They started accumulating gold not long after Bitcoin was launched because I believe they could see the writing on the wall, and it's basically showing a lack of faith in the fiat system. There's never been in my lifetime anyway, a greater lack of trust and faith in the fiat system. So the fact that the richest, most powerful asset managers in the world are all out there saying like, yeah, this dollar system it's showing a lot of cracks.
They had to wait for the clarity, the rules of the road. And that is what we're seeing. We saw the Genius Act pass earlier in the year, and we're seeing, with this government shutdown, it did slow down the Clarity Act. But I think the Clarity Act being passed and eventually being signed by Donald Trump will create a huge, at least mini bull run for DeFi. You're going to see projects like even Chainlink, Aave, Curve, I think Athena, Solana, because there's more and more DeFi and RWA on Avalanche. They're all going to have a pretty green, green juicy candles in my opinion.
That tokenized the world saying that we all used to say back in the day is not so crazy anymore. Like that is literally going to happen. We're going to tokenize the stock market. We're going to tokenize the real estate market. Everything will be tokenized in the next 15 to 20 years. And so if you're here and engaged, just stay locked in. Don't get shaken out. Don't get bored. I do know that happens a lot. People get bored and they go and then they miss the big opportunities. And almost always, this is part of what's so frustrating for me. Almost always the best opportunities are when it's super boring and nobody's paying attention. We were screaming to buy hard in 2022 and 2023. And then all this hype came in after the election 2024. Everyone's like, oh, wait a minute, we should start paying attention. Prices are going
up. And the dip to 75K. I had a home loan out and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to spend my fiat to fix my driveway.
Yeah.
I want to buy the dip. And
exactly.
You're crazy. Bull market's over.
Yep. And even these last, parts of this year has been very boring. A lot of people checking out, and then they always come back when the prices pump, and that's when you've missed the greatest opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, FOMC will be later, and we are going to be covering that live. Now, let's have a lot of fun here, Chad. This is going to be fun. How rich is Michael Saylor? Now, we're going to extract his equity in MicroStrategy. We're going to totally remove that. How much Bitcoin wealth does this man have? So this is a post that kind of went a little bit viral. Look, 1.7 million views. This is from yesterday here. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Why is this so impactful? Because he's quote tweeting his stash. He says how much Bitcoin he has in 2020. And then with this post right here saying you do not sell your Bitcoin, we're going to go ahead and extrapolate that. Maybe he hasn't sold a single Bitcoin out of this stash of 17,732. So let's go to the calculator. Let's do a little bit of math. 17,732. Now we need to go look at the very, very exact price. Bitcoin's at $112,881. $112,881. This is how rich Michael Saylor is with just his Bitcoin. Drum roll, please. Smash the like buttons. I want to see 4,000 likes before I hit equal. All right, I'll do it anyways here. Here we go. Smash that like button, though. Ooh, okay. That is $2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion.
Not bad for one asset.
Oh, my God.
That was back in 2020, and that's not even counting, like you said, what MicroStrategy has, his equity in MicroStrategy. Yeah, that's
average under 10K a piece average.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess
good for him.
Hats off. Yeah, hats off to Michael Saylor there. I was not expecting the number to be that high, if I'm going to be totally honest here. Let's talk about the ETFs. Or go ahead.
Well, it's just worth mentioning. Allegedly, he claims right now, very famously, that his contribution to the world, like he has no heirs, he has no children. When he dies, he says he will burn that, and so that's 17,000. That's $2 billion worth of Bitcoin that is going to come out of the supply, and his contribution back to humanity. So if that's the case, that's another huge chunk of Bitcoin that will never be in circulation, and that is part of the power of Bitcoin. Is its limited supply? It's getting harder and harder to get. Every one of these companies that comes out, it's getting harder for there to be a whole coiner out there. I know I got a lot of flack last time I said try to get to 1 Bitcoin, but I really do believe it's going to 1 million. It's going to 10 million. And if you can get to 1 million or get to 1 Bitcoin, if you have to start at 0.1, 0.01, start wherever you need to start, but your goal needs to be stacking Bitcoin. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I've been saying this for many, many years, and I'm very glad it's changed my life. It's changed the life of almost everybody in my life at this point. If you can get to 1 Bitcoin, that might be the saving grace you have financially. Otherwise, you will be stuck in this rat race of renting and working forever. And that is that's the design. That's the mechanism. So just that's my missionary statement for the day. Just try to get off zero is step 1, and getting to 1 Bitcoin as fast as you can before this train runs away is step 2.
Yeah, and don't never forget that inflation is stealing the blood of your soul. Okay, at the end of the day, you're trading in your time for these little green rectangles, and when they start to deflate, when they make that less valuable, they're stealing your time. And at the end of the day, your time is your life, it's your essence. And when they take that away from you, they're taking you out your core being. Bitcoin is one of the ways that we try to fight the excessive money printing and the money borrowing as our governments just become more and more insolvent. But let's talk about the ETFs here. Insane prediction from Eric Balchunas, one of friend of the channel, one of the Bloomberg bros here. He had some predictions on the first day's volume for the Solana ETF, the HBAR ETF, and Litecoin ETF. He said 52, 8, and 7. Actual numbers 56, 8, and 1. So Litecoin coming in very, very disappointing. 1 million trading.
You say Litecoin coming in a little light?
Coming in a little light there. Speaking of Sol had all the Sol there. It was 56 million compared to the 8 and the 1. You add that up. I mean, you're looking at 65. So 56 out of 65 million trading volume. Can't believe how close. ETF 6 cents for the win. Wish there's a poly market. That man would be rich. Let's break it down. So, around 55 million on the first day. This is the highest of all crypto ETFs this year. But what about last year? How does it compare to Bitcoin? How does it compare to Ethereum? Well, it did, it smoked HBAR, it smoked Litecoin there. But what about the majors there? Well, the ETH ETFs did a little bit better. I would say even a lot better. So Solana came in with 50 million. But that is a fraction of the 1 billion notched by the 9 ETH ETFs that launched last July. This was the first of the altcoin funds to launch in the US. And, BlackRock, just BlackRock's share, it was 250 million. Just Grayscale was mostly outflows, but even the volume there is just totally insane, 450 million. And if you look at Bitwise, Bitwise Solana did 50. Bitwise's ETH did 90 million there. So a little bit less than ETH, or significantly less than ETH, but significantly more than Litecoin, and, fair bit more than HBAR.
Yeah, and to be fair, they're rolling up, we're rolling up 9 Ether ETFs compared to 1 Solana ETF. So let's let these, the Grayscale Solana ETF, I believe, goes live today. So we'll see what kind of volume they do. But yes, it's not even close. Bitcoin and Ethereum far and away. And just for perspective, the highest performing ETFs ever, like the Bitcoin ETF blew away the first year of the gold ETF. Like, it wasn't even close to the performance, which previously BlackRock's gold ETF had been number 1. So that, again, if that wasn't a signal to anybody out there, these ETFs are absolutely, there's a huge appetite for them. Obviously higher for Bitcoin and Ethereum. There was more regulatory clarity, a lot more time, considerably less risk from a risk management perspective. But I do believe we will see appetite pick up for these Solana ETFs and these and other ETFs. My prediction is, once all of these products are on the market, we're going to see the highest volume in the bundles and in the baskets, because I know from a lot of traditional investors, they love indexes. If you can buy a top 10 basket that gets you some exposure to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Chainlink, Cardano, the kind of the top 10 US coins that make that list a lot. XLM is usually in there. Ondo is in there sometimes. I do believe those products will have a very big appetite as well.
Yeah, and Grayscale has let's see, they actually have the news on Grayscale's post here on the Solana ETF. This is 14 hours ago. So it's going to be GSOL, and it should be trading today. So they posted this yesterday. It's going to be on the New York Stock Exchange. But yeah, Grayscale does have a couple baskets, and I want to, also has Cardano in there as well. So, I got to mention Cardano. But speaking of coins that start, ADA, let's go to AVAX. Avalanche, tracking governments, and we showed this before, 86% below its peak there, but they are gaining ground as the preferred blockchain for governments and institutions, even though the token is continuing to lag well below its all-time high. For instance, we had Wyoming stablecoin that's launched on there, the Frontier stablecoin. It launched on Avalanche, as well as 6 other blockchains. Also has traditional finance player Skybridge Capital. This is the Mooches firm here. Anthony Scaramucci, famously, fired very quickly from the Trump administration in the 2016 campaign. He pledged to tokenize $300 million worth of hedge fund capital on the network. So we're seeing more and more adoption here. And at the end of the third quarter, they became the 3rd largest blockchain by value of U.S. treasuries on chain. This is according to RWAXYZ, which we covered in last night's video. If you didn't watch last night's video, you're missing out on all of this real world asset alpha. We're seeing who's growing. We're seeing who's shrinking. Maybe not so good for algo holders if you watched last night's video, but they came in with 638 million, only behind BNB and Ethereum. So Avalanche, top 3 when it comes to RWAs. You can see it right here. XLM also looking pretty strong, and Polygon. But yeah, when you look at the price, it's not all bad when you look at the metrics, though. Averaging over 1 million daily transactions, peaked at 51 million during the last quarter. However, the network usage, even though it's high, has not attracted significant upside. You're still down 86% from its all-time high, $146, and it reached November of 2021, a very, very bullish period.
Real quick, scroll up to that chart right above where you were looking at the RWAs. I'm just curious. Yeah, Solana's not on there, but Ethereum, Avalanche, Stellar.
7 coming in.
Oh, 7. There's Solana. Okay, so interesting that Visa chose Ethereum, Avalanche, Stellar, Solana, all pretty high ranking when it comes to RWAs. So that's what's interesting to me about Avalanche, is it has a pretty balance. It does have, like you said, government and a lot of regulatory clarity. It does have an RWA play. It does have pretty good tech and transactions and volume. AVAX number 4 on CoinMarketCap by what were you trying
the JD Vance, that's fake. That is all fake.
We did, that's a wrong .eth or
someone bought JD Vance.eth and they're like a Polygon whale, and they had a bunch of Avalanche.
So AVAX number 4 by market cap as far as RW. Let me know in the chat if you have Avalanche, and then I want to show. Here's the chart here, right? Here's the all-time chart you were just mentioning. That all-time high around $134. That was absolute peak November 2021. Fell down into this range of as low as maybe $10, but you pretty much between 10 and 15 for a long time to accumulate. Got a 2023 rally, and then obviously a rally in early 2024. This should be election rally, so it seems to be getting up to $50. I think it was as high as 30, yeah, not that long ago if you look at the last month. So I look at this and I see like, man, it seems like it's found a pretty good bottom. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. Is Avalanche a buy at under $20 in your opinion? Do you believe Avalanche will absolutely rally even to $50? Again, you look at market cap and you could argue, you see a little bit more range there. It's a little up at the bottom of market cap, a little more tokens in circulation now, number 19 overall, but it's also sitting in this range where at number 19, 8 billion, 8 billion, 8 billion, 9 billion, it could jump from number 19 to number 12 or 13 pretty easily with I think it was up in that range when it was, at a $30, $40 thing. So I've seen a lot of yeses. Yes, under 20, it's better. AVAX 120, laser face under 20. Yes. Cause I'm probably this week. I'm working on getting, I'm having some issues with banks and Coinbase and all that sort of stuff, getting the funds where they need to go. But I've started to accumulate the Ethereum. I'm probably making a substantial six-figure purchase of Avalanche this week. And my thesis would be, I believe it can get back to all-time highs, if not higher. The question is just when. How long will it take? Will that happen in December to January? Will it take all of next year? I do believe Avalanche is doing a lot of really good things behind the scenes and seems to be getting the nod from regulators, which at this point of where the crypto industry is, regulation and approval, so to speak, is a big part of your price bumps. Even though it's frustrating for those of us that came from the kind of the more cypherpunk ethos, that you don't ask for permission, just go build stuff. I do believe now, if you want the big money, you're going to have regulatory clarity. I do think the market structure bill will do that, and we'll see AVAX up a lot soon. So.
All right, and Cardano is going to still have a pump. Cardano always pumps at a weird time. I'm not too worried about Cardano there. I'm still a noob at doing your own research. Where do you learn about these projects and all this alpha? Just join the Discord. Noah, the uploads is where we do a lot of deep dives. I'll just give you, kind of couple examples here. Yeah, last night's upload, we did a nice little deep dive on rwa.xyz. Hold on. I don't know why it's not taking me to it there.
Hold on. It's because it's my screen.
Oh, no, it's just frozen for whatever reason. I don't know. So, yeah, I would say rwa.xyz is a good one. DeFi Llama is also going to be a good one there. This one actually did work out. RWA, maybe last night's video, everyone's checking it out. Everyone's doing a little blockchain sleuth there. DeFi Llama, CoinGlass is good, and rwa.xyz to learn about that specific sector. So watch our uploads. We kind of talk about the thought process of researching coins.
Yeah, Dune Analytics is another good one that we use a lot of times. Obviously, there's actually a reasonable amount of information on CoinMarketCap that you can link to different places. So there's a lot of places you can do research. So
and we're all noobs. We're all noobs at one point. So it's always good to learn, and you want to learn more. So awesome stuff. You want alpha? Just stay tuned into Discover Crypto.
Yeah, and get in the, like you said, if you're in the Discord, for those of you who don't know, that link is in the description of every one of our videos. So hop in there. And where's he going? Oh, what's he getting? Oh, here you go, dude. Nice. I love it. I was like, where's he going? Not the same Dune, but
oh wait, I thought we were talking about Frank Herbert's awesome novel from the 1960s regarding space politics and hallucinogenics.
Hey, that doesn't sound too much like science fiction these days.
Maybe it was about Elon. I don't know. Yeah. All right, let's breaking news. This is a developing story here. Pretty interesting, pretty weird. This is how it started. Tom Crown calling out James Wynn. He was called James Lose for a reason. And his perspective was he was stop loss hunted. Like his positions were so large and so public, he was targeted. That's what James Wynn, that's kind of what he would say. Tom Crown, worst trader turns scammer. James Wynn launches and rugs within 30 minutes. Is kind of how it started. And this is how it then went. He contacted Tom. My lawyers have collected everything on you. You'll hear from them next. See you in court, Tom, for defamation. Contributed to me losing millions of dollars from various exchange deals. One that named you. So,
BS.
Free our man, Tom.
Yeah, are you guys? I'm Team Tom. Are you guys Team Tom or Team Win on this one? Let me know in the chat. I'm 100% Team Tom. We love Tom Crown. Best sunglasses in the business. He also does FOMC streams. We're gonna at some point do one together. But love Tom. He's one of the best at doing that. Great.
The spice, man. The spice involved here.
Win is a goofball. My take on James Wynn. It feels like it's all a psyop. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. All he does is get wrecked on chain. Like,
I got a theory. Theory. It's the bell curve theory, TJ.
Okay.
All right. For those who don't know, the bell curve theory is, you'll see like the smooth brain, manlets on one side, and then you kind of have, basically where everybody else is, and then you'll have the geniuses on the far end of the bell curve. And oftentimes the slower folks, the short bus folks, agree with the geniuses a lot of times. And you'll see that a lot. And James Wynn got rich off holding a meme coin. He got rich, if I'm not mistaken, it was Floki. And if you think of a Floki person who turned, thousands into millions, it's going to be on the bell curve. It's not everybody in the middle that turned that into millions. It's going to be the complete morons, and it's going to be the geniuses with the foresight. Maybe that explains how he got rich off Floki.
Yeah, maybe. I'm
basically saying he's an idiot.
Yeah, I can't understand. Like, it's hundreds of millions of dollars he's lost more than one time. So like, he's allegedly has billions, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. To me, what makes a lot more sense is it's some type of wash trading, some type of illicit activity potentially. That's why it's all on Dexes. That's why it's lost on purpose. It's supposedly, and it's a big marketing scheme. Something doesn't add up. It's very strange. Obviously, he's not going to sue Tom. It's all antics. It's all kind of, I think, like a character or caricature that seems like to be common in crypto content on X these days. Shout out to Choose Rich Nick doing all these parody skits, and you're starting to see other people trying to emulate that. I feel like James Wynn is another one of those type of characters. It's definitely on chain showing $100 million liquidation. Like, it's just crazy. I think he's a crypto bro CIA asset. Sure, that that's another theory a lot of people throw out there. Definitely fishy. Like, if you guys, this is deep. This isn't really that deep of CT lore, but it's definitely CT culture drama that we're getting into right now.
Yeah, and he was on Spaces, or everyone could hear his voice, and it was just remarkable on how different he sounded versus everyone's expectations. He sounded like just a low IQ troll. Like,
sounds like the luck of the Irish. If you guys, the old Disney movie.
He sounded short. Real short.
But Drew's does spaces with him a lot. He was in Drew's DMs asking Drew to change his chat name and all that kind of stuff. That's another reason why I think it's like there's more to this than meets the eye, for sure. Like most of crypto.
I like Choose Rich though. I think Kobe had the good theory that his face is so disarming. Yeah. It totally changes your metric of, is this satire or not? And I totally agree with that.
He's the best.
It's a really good point.
He's the best at it. You're like, is he for real or not? Like, he crushes it.
He straddles the line of satire better than anyone I've seen, and definitely at least in crypto for sure. All right, I prefer high intelligence trolling. Same here. Let's talk about, speaking of high intelligence, let's talk about CZ. Meme coin tied to CZ crashed 99%. We got to look at the statue at least. So DC statue of CZ became the center of meme coin frenzy after the CZ statue token surged 27,000% before it collapsed to near zero. So they're calling it a quick buck scheme, and he doesn't appreciate being used for profit, telling followers, do not buy this meme. I haven't verified this myself, but it looks like 1,100 holders were left with near worthless tokens amid claims the contract was a honeypot. So you could buy, but you could not sell. Only the creator could sell. Let's go to the post. Let's actually look at it. I'm sorry. That's the statue right there. He has a large head. You know, I think you're supposed to have 7 noggins for your body's height. That looks a little bit off on the Da Vinci Vesuvian man ratio, but
That's real. Does that really happened?
yeah, it really happened. You know, well, I appreciate the gesture. The fact there's a meme coin associated means the creator probably just want to make a quick buck off the interaction. This is something I don't appreciate. Don't buy the meme. I would also never accept the statue. Well, what kind of egomaniac have a statue of himself inside his house? Makes me think of Dodgeball, Ben Stiller's character there. I really like to grab life by the horns. Someone once gave me a T-shirt with my face, thinking I would wear it. Again, who has the ego to wear a shirt with their own face on it? As if seeing it once is not enough. He also, you know, his first response was, "Yeah, I don't like how there's a contract address tied to this," but yeah, I don't know. Well, chat, what are your thoughts? You know, give me one word to describe the statue. I'm gonna go with majestic.
One word, you know, gaudy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely gaudy.
Did you cover his threat to Elizabeth Warren? Did you see that?
Yeah. You know, Elizabeth Warren, and also, you know, we talked about basically a whole army. Ro Khanna. I did a whole deep dive on Ro Khanna, calling him out yesterday. Ro Khanna got DZ'd, and sometimes you just got to DZ somebody. Now, I'm tired of DZing XRP. So let's give XRP its flowers. It's time to, you know, be the nice guy here, because I'm gonna FUD it in a video. 4 XRP charts that are predicting a rally. Let's break every single one of these down. All right. First off, 4-hour bull flag pennant. You see it right here. Yeah. I mean, this is the 2-hour chart, but I mean, you know, it still stands to reason. You can see, I would say it is a slight flag. You know, part of the flag, you need it to go down. Also, you remember yesterday's prediction? We said it was going to sweep the lows. We'll zoom in. This bull flag pennant is giving you a really good target of back to $3. You know, from 264, that's going to feel pretty good. Now let's zoom in on our prediction yesterday. It went lower than I thought. Remember, my prediction was this was like before all this. I was like, guys, it's got to sweep this. It's got to sweep that, and end up sweeping, I think, 2 more. Yeah, it came down, swept those. And then basically, it came down to the top right here, almost like perfectly to the dollar. So that's basically where it ended up coming down. It swept all this, and then it ended up, you know, hitting this range. That's finally when the bulls took over. So, you know, our short-term prediction, directionally accurate, but, you know, it did go a little bit lower, the DZ's prediction. So I'll take a LW on that one. Maybe not a L, maybe not a W, but we were pretty close. Bull flag, that's definitely a W. But we also got a classic chart pattern, head and shoulders. Hit that like if you're using some head and shoulders. We like our dry scalps. That's because you're just up watching the markets all day. Let's look at the head and shoulders here. I went ahead and charted that out as well. Let's see here. We got to go back to the 2-hour, 4-hour. All right, let's give ourselves a little target. You know how this works, TJ. We're going to go ahead and measure from the neckline to the crown of the head. And then from our intended breakout here, back to 291. Still directionally bullish. You know, we'll still take these little bit of pumps. If you're an XRP holder, you know, you'll take any kind of victory at the end of the day. Only 10%, but we got 2 more. These aren't going to be price charts. This one, decreasing supply on exchanges. This isn't, you know, going back super far, but this is going back all the way to 2021 lows, TJ. So you can see a lot of XRP disappearing from exchanges. What's your theory here? Are people locking this up? I mean, is this, you know, wallets getting more popular? You know, shout out to Arculus. What's your theory for where's the XRP going?
I think it's probably going to be in a lot of these ETF products. I think a lot of the XRP that's held, you know, whether it's through Ripple or Chris Larson or Brad Garlinghouse, you know, kind of the early XRP holders. You know, I think retail, I doubt they're taking it off exchanges. So it's basically movement by institutions, in my opinion. So, but that is bullish. I mean, obviously you don't want to see it on exchanges, and you can kind of see the inverse, like right there when that price spiked was when it really started a sharp decline on exchanges. So the number one metric I'll give XRP is it does have a limited supply. And once Ripple is done dumping, now they've got a lot, but once they're done dumping on retail's head, maybe you got a shot, but it's not going to be through volume. It's not, you know, XRPL is not going to save the day. Doesn't seem like they're achieving most of what they've set out to do. So
This guy, I honestly thought this guy had XRP on there. We were like talking about the token supply, infinite versus not infinite. So I pulled this post up. He didn't even have XRP up there. Hater.
Right.
Sebi, you XRP hater. I'll give you the follow back there though. All right. Oh crap. There we go. All right. So yeah, some do have infinite supply, ETH, Solana, Doge, and few of these top 10, top 15 coins, they don't. Bitcoin, Cardano, XRP are going to be the major ones that a lot of people are talking about. I looked at a lot of these. I think the winner, sir, one word, why?
Yeah,
some of those I can't read. Some of you guys have some spicy words, some spicy takes there. But last XRP chart, there were 4 of them, is a cumulative volume delta. It's basically just kind of measures the buyers relative to the sellers. Now, this is going back very, very significantly here, 22, 21. So we got about 5 years data here. Does look like the buyers are in control. And when the buyers are in control, I would say after a major move, you typically see the buyers in control for a semi-extended period of time. So, lean-in is going to be a little bit juicier green wedge. Hopefully we don't see this where it goes back to neutral, it goes back to net selling there. But that's basically looking at net selling, net buying there. The bulls might get back in control when it comes to XRP. I wouldn't short it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, like I said, the ETFs rolling out. It's got brand recognition, unit bias. There's definitely reasons it could go up, but the reasons
quite bearish on the RSI though on the 4-hour.
Yeah, the reasons aren't going to be strong fundamental, technical usage, volume metrics. A lot of the stuff that I like to look at, XRP doesn't have, and that's why I don't buy it. I like to buy things that I have conviction in, and I'm not kind of just hoping that it gets a pump. I really believe Aave is growing and will continue to grow over the next decade. I really believe Chainlink is growing and adding value and creating revenue. I believe the same for Arrow. I believe the same for Solana. I believe the same for Ethereum. Obviously, I believe Bitcoin is one of the best for store of value, and there's more and more things coming towards that. So, Pancake. I don't know if that guy's talking about Pancake Swap, but BNB, Pancake Swap, a lot of other dexes and DeFi. That's why I gravitate towards DeFi, is because I feel like it's a niche that I understand. It's a niche that I can see playing real world value, adding a lot of efficiency to the traditional financial system, and creating revenue and creating value, not just extracting value. And a lot of these other coins just exist to be purchased at a higher price. And I would say that is largely true for XRP. Not saying they didn't have a thesis at one point, but stable coins kind of took the legs out of what they were trying to do with XRP. They didn't really adapt. I felt like the XRP ledger was a little too late and a pretty underwhelming when you look at the usage. And so I just don't see it. Every time I kind of present any of these facts, and we get a lot of comments from XRP Army, and whether it's on X or on YouTube, and they just like, oh, you don't understand. But then they never explain what I'm supposed to understand. They never like, oh, we don't need Swift, we're replacing it. And it's like, okay, but you do need the people that have all the money that are trying to move it. And so if none of them are using it, what are you replacing it with? It's just, Yeah,
100%. I had some Zcash a while back and sold it. I think it would just do better to just not look at my portfolio. Hey, I'm in that Zcash. I sold not really that long before the pump there, and I FOMO'd in on the green wick, and I'm well up. I think we got in at 160, then we got in like in the low 200s, and I don't know where it's at now. I should have full ported a lot more into Zcash. It just has a really good narrative. Sometimes you gotta latch on to the strong narratives. Bitcoin OGs selling, half of 1% or 1% of their Bitcoin stash for Zcash. Very, very compelling narrative to myself, at least. But speaking of compelling narratives, Cardano's compelling narrative, midnight scavenger mine is opening today. I'm sorry, the pre-registration is. And so you can use essentially, I haven't looked into this. I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive. Big Pay, he did a little bit of a video. I need to watch that. But you can start mining night. It's going to be a short period. So this might be a way to put a computer to some work and mine something that isn't going to have all those, F2 pull rejects from 3 years ago, sitting on all this equipment. It's like, well, I got to mine something, give me Casp, give me whatever. I think this is going to be a little bit more niche, and I think there's going to be a decent amount of opportunity here.
I really hope Midnight performs well. We've got a ton of it from the airdrop claim. So if it does anything close to what people are projecting it to, yeah, this is an interesting one. And I like, mining is another way to get, arguably fair distribution. So
Yeah, and not only that, Gimli is one of the best in the Lord of the Rings scavenger party.
there you go.
The Mines of Moria there, man. All right, I just had to get another Tolkien reference in. Now, this is pissing me off. I swear, a quarter of the episode yesterday debunking, excuse my language, cover the kids here, debunking bullshit on crypto Twitter. There's just crap everywhere. There's lies everywhere. This is going, semi-viral for this guy at least. 2,000 followers, yet 76,000 views. So definitely over-indexing here. 99% chance Polymarket that ETH will hit a new all-time high in 2026. Doesn't that just seem wrong?
Well, yeah, it's my understanding is it's a market that already resolved.
Yes. Yeah. It was a resolved bet, but we have the unresolved bet because this resolved, and then so they end up creating a new one. And maybe some of you sharp-eyed viewers, you saw it on the post before I clicked on the graphic. TJ, I don't know if you saw it. Do you have what percentage of people you think ETH is hitting a new all-time high in the next 2 months?
I think I saw it before the stream, so I'll give the chat a second to answer. But put it in the chat. What do you think? The odds that ETH hits an all-time high this year, like between 1 and 100, what do you think it is? I know just sentiment-wise, when we ask the chat, generally it's around 50% is what the chat tends to think. Half the people think we're going to get a mind melting rally. Some people say no. See, we're seeing 90%.
So basically 40. Trying to hit 5K. Can ETH hit 5K is kind of basically what we're asking here. So
I think it's around. Yeah, I think it's around 45%. I'm seeing the answers rolling now. 25, 90, 100, 25, 32.
Well, it is 44% chance here.
Yeah.
44% chance.
I would be, obviously, I lean on the bullish side. I do think it's going to happen. That's why I'm about to buy. That's why I am buying a ton of Ethereum. I do think we see it above 5,000. I think when it moves fast. I mean, we saw it go from 3,800 to 4,200 in, basically less than a week, maybe a weekend. And I think it can go from 4,200 to 5 on a rate cut, on an end of a Chinese tariff, on a market bill. The market structure bill in a lot of ways is what's going to be what sends the altcoins. And,
all right. Well, speaking of China, I just got all the segues today, TJ. China purchases 180,000 tons, not pounds, not ounces, not little bags you see at the Chinese market here. No, 180,000 tons of U.S. soybeans. I don't know who sells soybeans. And their first order in months.
Maybe you will see these at the Chinese market.
Well, I go to the Mexican mart all the time. I made tamales not that long ago, but I buy Goya beans. Good, by the way. Yeah, see, I'm buying Goya beans. I don't know who's buying the soybeans. I'm not a soy boy. Smash that like if you're not a soy boy. But it's a show of good faith ahead of tomorrow's meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping. But there's a very compelling bet. This mega whale won $13 million on Trump winning the election. He's now returned after a year of no bets. He's now trying to buy 200,000 shares on whether Trump and Xi Jinping's handshake lasts 6 to 10 seconds. You can't make this up. This is I don't even know what the heck's going on here, man.
Did you see Zach XBT's comment underneath that? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it says he knows who the wallet belongs to, and he's been an advisor to Nigel Farage, as known for high-stakes gambling, and previously was found guilty for wire fraud.
Yeah, so apparently this guy's just a big-time gambler, and that's an interesting bet. Maybe he knows politics, and he knows, obviously, Trump is the famous handshake pull-in method. I don't know if Xi Jinping...
Macron, yeah.
I don't know if he is known for long handshakes as well. I would think not, but I don't follow a lot of this stuff. So it is definitely wild out there. And that's what's fun about Polymarket and prediction markets is you can bet on almost anything, which is a wild time. I do believe those prediction markets are here to stay. Big believer in Polymarket, actually very proud of Polymarket as being one of the kind of the most mainstream crypto apps, in my opinion. It's kind of the one that hit escape velocity. So happy to see their success. Shane Copeland as well. So I was going
to say last story. I mean, we got, speaking of, China and Trump and everything, now the Democrats are, increasing the heat on Trump. It's kind of something we've been covering for the last 2 days. Started with Elizabeth Warren. They call her the banking broad. Some got other names for her. And then we started to roll over into Maxine Waters. And then we saw Ro Khanna yesterday. And now Senate Democrats are starting to band together on what they perceived as CZ Trump corruption.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing's stupid. It's just they're gonna come after Trump for almost anything and everything, anything they can make noise over. To me, it's ridiculous. I think Elizabeth Warren unfairly accused, got his crime wrong. He did. They basically got him on what they get everybody on, basically saying you didn't put in tight enough regulation restrictions, in our opinion, on your exchange.
Yeah, how I phrased it yesterday is they didn't ask people for pictures of their driver's license fast enough.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Doesn't mean we're, I don't even want to say any bad words here. It's not we're funding the T word or anything like that. So,
and we are actually, I see the chat talking about experiencing a little bit of a pullback right now, back under 112. We were, starting the show a little bit higher. I think it was around 113.5 this morning. So on a pullback, not surprising. It could be people closing positions, preparing for FOMC. It could be a big one today. Again, if they don't cut rates today, markets will dump. And then you could argue a rate cut is already priced in, so it probably won't have a substantial impact today. To me, the bigger macroeconomic things, end of the U.S.-China trade war and market structure bill. And I was going to say the market structure bill likely to be late November. So we've still got some time before that gets done. The government shutdown slowing a lot of these things down. But when that gets done, I think it's when we see the fireworks, November, December, January. TJ, what does this say? There is a pool on Power Market. If TJ will be wrong about XRP, well, great. Let's make that pool. I'll go bet on myself because I have a pretty good track record when it comes to calling crypto. So,
all right. Well, there we go, folks.
CME gap. People talking about it filling that.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, CME gap. So, could be a good thing here. Let's see. I've always forget how to type. Oh, because maybe it's under all CME. I think so. We're looking at Chicago Mercantile Exchange and it might be BTC futures. I'll have to look it up. How you end up finding it there, but yeah. That is our show. We're going to have another extra important FOMC live stream later on today. And I think we got a video. Is there a video from the Druth coming out?
I'm not sure when we've got it scheduled for, but he's definitely shooting. We have an updated aerodrome video, so be prepared for that. And smash the like button on the way out. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Disco fam, smartest people in all of crypto. Love hanging out with you guys here. Love getting all your takes on crypto. And we'll see you at the top. We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.